This episode is brought to you by the Witty and Gritty 5-Minute Mini Journal. It's centered around Ephesians 6:10-18, known as the Armor of God. Once you download this freebie, over the next 7 days, take a few minutes each day and dive into what the armor of God is and why it's important to Christians in their daily walk. You can find this at wittyandgritty.blog. We'll link it in the show notes.
Welcome to the Witty and Gritty podcast, where we believe that lifelong learning and relentless determination are essential to developing your passions and reaching your goals. Here to help you along the way are the hosts of the show. Take it away, ladies.
Hey y'all, I'm Brooke.
And I'm Farron.
As educators and high achievers, we're passionate about providing our listeners with effective strategies to help navigate life's obstacles and reach your goals sooner.
Join us as we break down credible research that gives you a fresh perspective and challenges your limiting beliefs.
Laugh and grow as we share personal anecdotes and interviews from people that have demonstrated what it takes to be successful.
By implementing these practices, you will develop your unique skill set and learn how to better serve your community.
Get your mind right.
And enjoy this time designed just for you.
Okay, Farron, so this is an episode we have not had before or touched on this topic.
Yes, so we know a lot of people have either been directly or indirectly affected by this, but drug addiction, especially in young people, honestly, any age, but this episode is going to focus on how the use of drugs and addiction at a teen level can be very, very challenging for parents and the rest of the family, siblings included. But this couple's going to share how they walked that path and got to a bright outcome.
Yes, so, and at the end, stick around, because they give very specific ways on how you can help or pray or take action somehow, because if you are not personally experiencing this, someone you know is, which is why it's important to listen all the way through to the end to hear what they have to say.
Yes, I was left feeling like I wanted to help.
Yes.
And just already praying for my kids. So stick around at the end so that way you can have that need fulfilled.
Episode 25, we are in our interviews portion of our mini-series, 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do.
And we know that it's not only our favorite, but our audience favorite to hear the principles from the book in action. And today we have Jerry and Pam Lewis on the show.
Yes, thanks guys for coming out. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you guys?
Well, as you said, I'm Jerry Lewis, my wife Pam Lewis, and we've been married 25 years and have an awesome marriage. Very blessed to have her. And we have 3 amazing children. We have Caleb, who's 18, Abby, 16, and Asher, 13. And we met actually at a public swimming pool. I decided to do my first triathlon. And I couldn't swim very good, so I had a friend help me do some laps there, and she was a lifeguard there. And we were actually married 7 months later.
Nice. That makes me think of like Squint and Wendy Peppercorn. Did you ever fake drowning so she'd come save you?
Probably did. I don't remember.
I can't take it anymore.
It was a good movie, yes.
Today we brought you guys on the show to talk about Caleb, your eldest of the 3. He's the 18-year-old. And you guys have a really cool story with lots of twists and turns. And throughout this whole story, it's been really cool to see how you guys have reached out in your time of need, but then also serving others in their time of need and just being mentally strong through the whole thing.
Yeah, we often say that other people's battles become other people's roadmaps. So I think you guys are really living that out in the story you're about to share. And so we know that what you've been through and what you've learned is only going to help others in similar or relatable situations.
So why don't you go ahead and walk us through just the first little bit of maybe like when you kind of noticed something going on with Caleb, and then kind of when you found out there was something going on.
So we noticed in Caleb, even when he was young, 10, 11, 12, he had a really big heart, had a lot of compassion for others. I mean, I know one time we were driving down the road and he wanted to give his money to the homeless guy on the corner. So I let him, and he was always, wanting to help others. And But I think, looking back now in the 7th grade, so leading up to that, he had a best friend, since kindergarten, all the way to 7th grade. The kid was at our house all the time. And Caleb was over there all the time. They were just super close. They had planned on going to college together. Well, in 7th grade, we were actually gone, and we left Caleb at home with his friend, and another boy came over, and they ended up bullying Caleb.
And that was not the first time he had been bullied. He had told us even when he was in kindergarten on the school bus, he had been bullied. And so I think with his tender heart from an early age on, he was just sensitive. And he would then try to be funny to cover all that up and be the class clown and really try to make things funny and airy and light. And so it was hard for us really to see that there was a struggle for him. And he did become a Christian at the age of 7. And so just kind of growing him up, teaching him the Bible, we knew he had a great memory.
Yeah.
And so leading up then to 7th grade when the bullying really got difficult. And as y'all know, middle school is hard for everybody. And it got really, really hard for him. And so we got calls from the principal, Caleb pulled the fire alarm. Or we saw Caleb in a video on social media of him lighting his shoe on fire. And we're like, what is that? What is happening? And so that's when we first started to really see a huge difference in him with 7th, 8th grade. 9th grade was awful. That's when we knew there were drugs involved, smoking weed. And
just going back with that event happening, he never hung out with that boy again, actually. And that kind of trajected him with a different group. At the time, we didn't think it was a really negative group, but as 8th graders, but they grew up and it was not a positive group or environment for him. And so because of that, that's kind of why he started vaping and drinking. And we knew a little bit of it. We didn't know how bad it was because the vapes are so easy to hide. And some of them you can't smell. And he just got really addicted. And then it just got to where marijuana and then basically any drug he could just get his hand on. And that was 9th, 10th grade. And then the behavior was just terrible. We were very intentional with our marriage to stay strong because we have 2 other amazing kids. And probably the only time I don't want to say argued, but we just didn't agree on how to handle the situation. We were desperate.
Yeah, that's hard, especially when we use the term intense fellowship in our CG. So we don't want to say like fight or argue, but we had some intense fellowship today.
that's a great way to put it.
But and we have this, it's like the age-old conversation. What do you do when you're a team, but y'all disagree on the process, but something has to happen and you're trying everything and doing everything you know how. So how did you know what to do next?
Well, we did reach out to our community group. We're very involved. We actually lead a community group, and they were really strong, praying for us, helping us. Pam started doing a lot of research on rehab centers, places that Caleb could go. At the time, Caleb had just turned 16, and it just got to the point to where we knew we were going to do something because, honestly, I was afraid of him, and my son was afraid of him. His brother was afraid of him. We had to lock our door at night, so he ended up stealing my gun and trading that for drugs, and that was kind of our rock bottom. This is prior to him running away, sneaking out,
stealing money,
stealing from others, stealing from us, stealing from his brother and sister. So after her doing a lot of research, because these places are very expensive, and we had to find a lockdown facility, which even narrows the options because Caleb wasn't going to volunteer to go. So she finally found a teen ranch in Arkansas. And so my brother and a friend got Caleb up at 2 a.m. and had to force him into a vehicle. And that was pretty awful. He fought and cussed him pretty much the whole way there. And they had to force him into the rehab center. We actually followed them in our car and got him checked in. And he was there for about 30 days, and he ran away twice, even though he had an ankle monitor, and he's in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. But we looking back, he did it to get kicked out, which he did. He got kicked out, and he thought he'd come home. Well, he didn't come home. We had to hire a transport company, which I didn't even know they had those, but there was a lot of them. And they transported Caleb from Arkansas to Tijuana, Mexico, a 25-hour drive. And he was there for about 7 months.
To go back a little bit, how did the conversations go, like when you first started noticing behaviors like with Caleb? What were those conversations like? Because you talked about how y'all worked through it and reached out to a community, but how did those progress from maybe just like, yeah, I know I shouldn't have, I'm just trying to envision, to then like, forget y'all, I'm going to do what you want.
Yeah, it did. So it did start out as, we have to discipline you. We're taking your phone, all the discipline things we try. And then, like Jerry had said before, we had tried everything. We're like, what are we doing? So we'd say, Caleb, we've got to talk. He's like, okay, you have 5 minutes. What do you want? And now when we talk to him about it, he's like, I said that because I couldn't look y'all in the face because I knew what I was doing was so wrong, but I didn't know how to get out of it. But he would cuss us out. He and Jerry couldn't even be really in the same room together. I kind of felt like I was the mediator in the middle, trying to just make things somewhat normal, but it was far from normal. He wouldn't, like Jerry had said, the brother and sister were afraid of him. So the conversations got smaller and smaller and smaller to where we really were reaching out to people like, what do? We called counselors trying to get help. Yeah. And say, this is what he's doing. What do we do? Until finally they admitted to us, you're going to have to send him away. Gotcha. And that was...
It just got to where every time we tried to talk to him, it just ended up in a fight or a big argument. He'd just run away. And
so to the point where we told him, okay, so this is it. We're not doing this anymore. We're going to send you to treatment. He's like, oh, no. And he freaked out, of course. And to where the point... Anytime I had to take him anywhere, doctor's appointment, orthodontist, whatever, I'm not getting in your car. I can't. You're going to take me somewhere. And so then he's, again, just running away more and more to where the police officers had to intervene for us to be able to bring him home or go find him. So just no communication really is where it ended up.
You have multiple people doing different roles. So you brought your CG in, they were praying, they were helping you seek wise counsel. Counselors were there to give you next steps. Pam, you were the research queen. Jerry, you were trying to facilitate it all. So I like how everyone was playing their own role in it. And you even had, you said your brother and who else?
My brother.
Yeah. And I'm glad they stepped up to do that.
That took vulnerability. Was that at all hard to let other people in on what y'all were going through?
Mm-hmm. It was at first. Of course, in the beginning, we blamed ourselves. We're like, what did we do wrong? Where could we have done better? So we blamed ourselves, but we got to a point where we were very humble, and because we got really desperate.
Mm-hmm. We just knew we couldn't do it ourselves anymore. Mm-hmm. And when we did reach out, how overwhelming the reception was of, oh, that's happened to me, or that's happened to my brother's son, or, so many people this has happened to before. And people would say, I'm so happy that you have spoken up about it, which is totally opposite of me. I'm not a very open, out in public type person. And again, so it was very hard in the very, very beginning. But then when more people came around and were just saying such sweet thing, love, praying for you, it really helped.
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised too by how many people came out and went through the same thing, or they had, a cousin or a nephew that went through the same thing. And just how many people text me privately that I would have never thought had problems. They were like, yeah, I used to be an alcoholic. I used to be on drugs and So let me help you. And I was just like, wow, I can't believe this.
So Caleb was in the facility. He was in the Arkansas one for a little bit and then went to one in Tijuana for an extended longer, over half a year. So walk us through like kind of where it turned a corner, how it changed, what kind of happened from there.
So the place in Tijuana, it was a lockdown facility. It's a very small place. And actually, when we tell people Tijuana, you think of, just danger and drugs, terrible place. It actually is a beautiful place. We went and visited him 3 times there. And where he was a beautiful house right off the beach. Unfortunately, the really bad thing is when he was there, that's when COVID hit. So he actually, the first 6 months, he never even left the house.
Didn't walk outside.
Didn't even walk outside. They had him so locked down because normally they'd be out serving the community, volunteering, being able to go to the park and, play soccer, basketball, but they never got to go out. So that was really hard on him, which, I can understand. That's got to be tough. So, in fact, I think it was our second visit. He walked from the house across the street to meet us, and that was the first time he'd ever been out of the house in 6 months. So it was kind of an eye-opener. The facility was nice. It was not Christian-based. We know now that, looking back, he was actually getting high there. They were sneaking vapes and
using aerosol
cans to get high, which is very dangerous. In fact, one time he asked us to bring a bunch of Axe body spray. And he was like, make sure you get some for my friends. And I thought, oh, he's being so nice. But no, he was using it to get high. So anyway, where the story really turns is that Pam and I, we bought a new house. We were remodeling it. So we went to Home Depot to get some prices on some things. And we ran into 2 men that were selling banana bread. And they started telling us their testimony. And I was like, this is my son. I said, tell me more about this place. And they said, it's Victory Life. It's a ministry. We sell banana bread to fund it. It's totally free for people to come. We're just a men's and women's home. And we actually took those 2 men to dinner and found out more, got the director's name. I called him the very next day and fell in love with the guy. His name is Ken Holbrook. And then we drove out to where the facility is in Van, Texas. It's right past Canton. Fell in love with the facility and Ken. Ken was kind of reluctant to take in Caleb because he was a teen. And like I said, it was just a men's home. They had about 40 men at the time. But then we had to get Caleb to get on board because it's a volunteer program. So we actually went to visit Caleb with our family.
On his birthday.
Oh, yeah. Right before his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Caleb, I said, son, just go to this place for 90 days and you'll be home for Christmas. And he was very reluctant because he's, it's too much Jesus. And
he talked to Ken on the phone.
Yeah, Ken did call him and he told him what they do in the program. And it is a lot of Bible study and a lot of Jesus, which we loved.
That's what he needed.
Yeah. So we convinced him to go for the 90 days. And I knew, and he even will say at the time, he's like, yeah, I'm just going to do my 90 days and I'll be done and I'll be back home getting high. And so we got him in 2 weeks before Christmas. We go to visit him and he tells us that God is telling him to stay longer.
What? Yeah. So I want to back up just a little bit. So again, just knowing things now that Caleb's kind of told us more of his story. When he was in Tijuana and completely locked down, as bad as that sounds to us, that was God's way of really getting him to his rock bottom. Because he tells us when he was in the shower one day, the tiles were broken in the shower, and he picked one up and started cutting himself. And he looks down, he sees blood, and looks out the window that had bars upon bars upon bars on it. And he's like, what am I doing? And I think that he felt the nudge of the Holy Spirit then telling him, there's something better. And so he did reach out to God then and was like, please help me. This is not what I want. Either take me, let me die now, or save me. And so then fast forwarding to our visit that we went to see him in Tijuana, he did start to feel the nudge of the Holy Spirit. And he will tell you now to this day, the reason for his success is all God. He will not take any credit for that. He thanks us for helping him, but really it's all God. And again, just to hear him transform then the couple of months at Victory Life, it was from September to December, had the biggest transformation. And then again, from December to even March.
Mm-hmm. This interview is coming after our series on mentally strong. And so during this process, even making the decisions with the different facilities, how did you ever feel like, what are we doing here? Are we doing the right thing? And how did you navigate those? Because it can't be easy, even if you're like, this might be the only thing to save him, to send him off and be confident every day that we're doing the right thing. So how'd you navigate those? Maybe if you had any doubts in what you were doing.
Yes, we did. It was very tough. There was a lot of prayer. Actually, both of us had never prayed that much in our life. I mean, on our knees. But we got a lot of references from the place in Tijuana from parents. I talked to several parents and they said great things about the place. The thing is, he was safe, healthy. And as Pam said, that's kind of where he hit his rock bottom. And then being at Victory Life, he had a little more freedom, but he was just being loved on by the director, Ken. And because Caleb did so well, fast forward, Caleb got baptized there, started stepping up into some leadership roles, started going to high school, went back to school, got on the soccer team, got MVP of his team, got straight A's, captain. Just a total turnaround. And praise Jesus. And he gives glory all to God. But because Caleb did so well, they actually but they're renting a home just for teens. And so now they have 6 teens in this home. And Ken and his wife live in the home with them. And Caleb is the leader in the home. And they're mentoring him because now Caleb wants to be in the ministry. So...
And I think to go back maybe and to answer a little more of the mentally strong part of it, we didn't feel mentally strong. I think what helped us the most, like Jerry said, was praying, being on our knees, and just knowing that really the only thing that could help was God and the people surrounding us, and knowing that we had support. And I think because we were on the same page, I'm so thankful that both of us are Christians. I've talked to so many families now that either aren't Christian or one is and one isn't, that have asked us questions about their children and what to do in this kind of situation. Our biggest advice to them is be on the same page. You have to be. Because there were so many days we'd look at each other and go, is this really the right thing? And really, we didn't know. And one day he was strong and I wasn't. And then, one day I was strong and he wasn't. And so I think just having the two of us, both Christians on the same page is so helpful. Having God as the center, helped us keep going. And then how to find support from our family and community group. And so looking back on, I couldn't say we were mentally strong, but thank goodness we have Jesus.
Yeah, there were days we literally did not know what to do. So, yeah, God definitely directed us there.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you recommend to maybe the parent that's like apprehensive and might say things, well, they don't want to go, so I guess maybe someday they'll get better. And then, or Well, I'd love to have help in community and support, but I don't want people to know. What if they think bad about me? Or we're just going to handle our family business internally. I know that's kind of two questions in one, but
Those are some normal questions, and we've heard them. I would just go back and tell them our story, and just say we had to make Caleb go. As hard as that was, and, we had to lie to him, and that was so hard to do, but I know that's what we had to do. And as hard as we don't want to, send your kid away, sometimes that's what we have to do, and we have to do those hard things. And so that's what I would say. Just don't ask the kid, because Caleb will say he doesn't even remember half of the stories of what he did or didn't do.
Because he was high so much.
Yeah, they don't know. Mm-hmm. And so you have to go ahead and make those decisions, as hard as it is or as bad as it is. And don't think, oh gosh, well, what do you want to do today, honey? For the kid, you can't really ask their opinion on that.
I think in the beginning we were that way, but like I said, we just got desperate. And I think if you truly love your son or daughter, you're going to do whatever it takes to get them help. And I think they'll end up being desperate, and they'll be asking for help. They'll be begging God and begging others, and they'll find help for their child. And this has really kind of turned into a ministry for us. I mean, we've been able to help several families going through this. There's actually a lady that does Pam's boot camp that had a nephew in Florida on drugs and just going through the same thing Caleb was. And his mom drove him from Florida to Victory Life in East Texas. And one day checked him in. He's been there for 4 months.
No longer than that. Almost 6 months.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. 6 months, and he's doing great. And Pam has talked to several moms with their kids are going through the same thing. And what's crazy, it's 12, 13, 14-year-olds that are on drugs. And it's mind-blowing how bad it seems like it's gotten worse for families and for teens. And there's such a need. I mean, the people that can afford the nice places, there's a waiting list. And even for Victory Life, they can only take 2 more teens. The places are mostly full. It's crazy. But it has been a ministry for us to help other families, which has been a blessing to others too.
We are so thankful that y'all said yes to coming on the show. We know that y'all's ministry, even if you think it's just small and just 2 people, the ripple effect is already helping so many people. So we are so thankful that you are willing to come on the show and talk about all of this.
Well, thank you for having us.
Well, I will say one more thing. Caleb now, he wants us to pray for boldness for him. He says it's tough in the locker room because he's on the football team now. He's the captain of the football team, which is incredible. Still making straight A's. And he started last week a Bible study at lunch at the school. And he had 1 person show up. But just so proud of him.
So if more people can pray for him.
Yeah.
To keep it going.
Yeah, like I said, he wants to be in the ministry now, which we just wanted him to get clean, but now he's wanting to serve Jesus.
I think it just means that all the actions you took, maybe you were like, we just want him clean and healthy, but how far above and beyond, like you guys have said, that God's turned this, story around for you and your family. And so you guys seem to be really good, like researchers. I don't know if you just like Googled it, but if you don't mind sharing, like y'all, where people can find you, if they're looking for support, or if you have other places you'd recommend them to start with, any websites or resources.
I'd say email us.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So many, it's mind blowing how many places really there are, yes. How many treatment centers. And I do have a long list, so it'd be easier just to email me and then I can kind of help direct people different ways.
Because there is, it kind of depends on what their son or daughter is going through. Okay. And that kind of helps direct to maybe a certain facility. Also depends on how much money they have. which you asked. So I will say Victory Life, it is free for teens and women and men, but there are costs. So if anyone would like to donate to Victory Life, we'll take it, or they'll take it.
Sounds good. We'll link all of that Victory Life stuff up in the show notes, whoever is listening to this. That way you can easily click, and we'll also put in Pam and Jerry's email. That way it is easy to get to.
Yes, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your story. I can't wait just to see how many lives are changed.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We help hardworking Christian women get the growth they want by giving them the tools they need in order to have more joyful lives.
We love providing our Christian-based personal growth podcast to our listeners at no cost. If you are enjoying the content, please consider supporting our mission by donating to our Patreon.
We're a small team creating the show for our community by researching, recording, and producing the episodes ourselves. Any amount is greatly appreciated. Your support will help offset the cost of making and hosting the show.
As a thank you, you can receive exclusive access.
For more details on specific membership tiers, visit our Patreon page. Go to patreon.com/wittyandgritty. We've included the link in the show notes.